Have you ever experienced criticism in your life? I think that all of us know what it's like to have those times in life where we have to deal with critics. Whether you're doing something good or maybe not so good, it seems like there's always someone around to look at what you're doing and give their input. Now, if you're off track doing something you're not supposed to do and someone gives their input, we most of the time know that what they're saying is right. We may not like it, but we know that what they're saying is right. But when we're doing a good thing, and this is where I have the hardest time, we're doing a good thing. We're trying to make the people around us better, or we're trying to make our situation better. We're trying to be helpful. Maybe we're even sacrificing something to be helpful. And someone on the outside who's watching this starts to point out the areas we're not doing as well as we could. And it's easy to just step back and go, look, I'm doing the best I can. If I could do more, I'd do more. But we have these folks come along who like to help us or point out where we're having a shortfall of some kind. This is something that, when it happens, puts us in a position where we then need to make a decision. How are we going to deal with criticism? How are we going to deal with our critics? This is so important in my life. I wrote some things down and I wanted to share it today with you, and I hope this can be a help to you as well. Before I get to my list though, and I wrote these things down because I didn't want to forget, but before I get to my list, I just want to say this at the outset. Not all critics are bad. That word critic or criticism or to be criticized, these all have very negative connotations to us, and we look at these as negative things or bad things, but they're not always negative things or bad things. A coach critiques or criticizes, really, the players to make them better. A school teacher may critique or criticize, bring criticism to a student so they can make them better. It can be done positively, it can be done in a very helpful way, and we can be better because of the criticism. But a lot of what we have to deal with is not that happy, let me help you with this kind of criticism. It's something that comes across as negative, and we look at the people that are offering it, and our initial response is to step back or to push them away. How do we deal with these critics? I want to give you some thoughts that have been helpful to me, and I'm always trying to learn this, but here's the first one. Listen. Listen to your critics. Listen. The first thing we want to do when someone criticizes what we're doing is we want to cut them off, we want to interrupt them, and we want to tell them that they have no voice here, that they need to go away, that they have nothing to say. We don't want to listen to them. Or we don't say anything, and we may even sit there and quietly absorb the words that are coming our direction, but we're not really listening. Hear what your critics have to say, because here's something I've learned. Even those with maybe bad intentions or those who come across as critical are people that we should listen to, because even when people are trying to hurt us perhaps, there might be something in what they're saying that can be helpful. If you want to get better, if you want to improve, if you want to do more than you're doing right now, you need to stop talking, turn off the excuses that are rolling around in your brain, and listen. Listen to what's being said. The second part of this, though, is also important. You need to listen, but then evaluate. As the critic is speaking, much of what they're saying won't be a help to you and may be unnecessary and might even be hurtful. But listen for the things that might be helpful and then evaluate those things. Take a look at them and see how they fit into your situation. Can you take what's being said? Can you take the information that is being offered and actually apply it to your situation? So listen, turn off the excuses that are rolling around in your brain, turn off your mouth long enough to absorb what's coming your way, and then take that information in and evaluate it. It won't all be good, but there may be even one small nugget that can be helpful. I won't give specific examples, but particularly as someone who has spoken to audiences, whether it's through preaching or teaching or whatever the case, there have been a lot of people over the years who have given me criticism, and at the time it was delivered, some of it has really hurt. You prepare, you pour yourself out to the audience, you're trying to give things that will be helpful, whether it's a sermon, a message, or just information through a class, whatever it is. You're there to be helpful. And someone criticizes something silly that you said or that you did, or something that you may not have even noticed, something perhaps even very small. But those criticisms, when taken well, when listened to and evaluated and brought into kind of my mind and my system, have been a help. Listen, evaluate. I'd say this then, and this is a very important one: extend grace. Extend grace. you may want to lash out at the person who's trying to offer criticism. You may want to say something snarky or sarcastic or push back on them somehow. But let me say this. It is very easy to push away all criticism in your life. Someone offers something that may come across wrong, but it has some helpful nugget in it. You can push those people and that helpful information and any positive criticism out of your life just by failing to extend grace. Listen to what's being said, evaluate it, and then say something like this: thank you. That's it. Thank you. You don't have to do anything with that information, but extend grace so that you have the blind spots in your life covered by people on the outside. You're not going to see everything. And someone, again, even if they're negative sometimes, they may have something to offer that you would not see if they didn't offer it. And if you just hit back every time someone tries to offer something helpful or even something, they may mean to be hurtful, but it's that nugget that you can take and make yourself better. If you push those people out, you will eventually not have anyone telling you anything. And then you are your best counselor. You'll never be better than you are right now. Listen, evaluate, extend grace, and then make changes. Make changes. Don't allow your pride because you worked hard or you studied hard or you tried hard or you sacrificed, don't let the pride of those things prevent you from making the changes that you really need to make. Make those changes. You don't have to announce the changes. You don't have to go back to that person and say, hey, I've made some changes. You don't have to do any of that. Just make the changes. Listen. Take that nugget. If there's only one small thing, take that small thing. Evaluate. How does this possibly apply to my life? Extend grace. Say thank you. I appreciate it. Walk away. And then make the changes that need to be made. All right. Now we move on though, because there are times when those critics, those offering critique, they keep coming back. They really don't want to be helpful. They do intend to be hurtful. I want to make this statement. Hold on to the power. Hold on to the power. And here's what I mean by that. Don't give emotional power or control to a person who is being critical of you. There's a story in the Old Testament in the Bible that's a great story, and I won't tell you the whole thing. Maybe you're familiar with the book of Nehemiah, the person Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a great character in the Bible, and he's endeavoring to build the walls around the city of Jerusalem. It's a great story, big story. But in this process, he has some critics come along, people that don't like him. In fact, some people that wanted to hurt him. And there's one part in the book of Nehemiah where this story is being told, that Nehemiah is on top of a wall. He's building the wall. He's doing the work, and it's going great. And the critics come, and they say, come down and let's talk about some things. And he looks at them and says this, I'm paraphrasing. He said, why should I come down from the work that I'm doing? I'm doing a good work. Why should I stop to come and listen to you, my critics? Listen, don't give the power to the critics. Receive the good nuggets of information, the help that they maybe have buried in something that sounds negative. Take the help, evaluate how it might apply to your life, extend grace where you can. There's no reason to return critique for critique. Take that in, make the changes where you can make changes, but hang on to the emotional power. Don't get so wrapped up in what the critics are saying that you now focus on the criticism instead of the good work. Be like Nehemiah. Look at the wall and say, hey, maybe I'm not doing everything perfectly, but I'm doing a good work. Here's what you can do if you're not careful. You can do 100 things right and have one critic point out one really small thing, and focus on that small thing so much that you forget about the 100 good things that were done. I have experienced this over and over again. Man, if you ever want to experience criticism, preach a message in a church. You think you get a lot. You think it wouldn't happen, but it happens. And you may preach a great message. You might have 300 people walk by you and say, hey, that was a great message. It was helpful, changed my life. And one person who points out that you put your hands in your pockets too much or did something that was silly. And that's the thing that you think about. Don't give away the power. Along with that, I'd say this. Don't reward bad behavior. If someone is only always negative, they're critiquing, but there's nothing positive or redeeming in it, you don't have to continue to take those meetings. You don't have to continue to listen. In fact, there may come a point where in an attempt to hang on to the power, you have to say something like this: hey, we've talked about this before. You never offer anything that I can really use. I'd rather not have these conversations anymore. Extend grace where you can. Give thanks where you can. But if there comes a point where that criticism is now harmful, you need to stand up for yourself, for your art, for your craft, whatever it is you're doing, and say, I'm not going to do that anymore. There's no reason to be abused just so that you can extend grace. Hang on to the power. You don't need to give that power away. And then just like Nehemiah, I'd say this next thing: pursue your calling. Pursue your calling. There are a lot of people who don't do what they know they're called to do, what they're gifted to do, what they're equipped to do. They don't do it because of criticism. Maybe they've been criticized in the past and it was too hurtful. They don't want to experience that again. Maybe they're just afraid that they will be criticized if they try something and they don't want to experience that. And so they don't do anything. They don't continue to pursue their calling because of criticism. Focus on your calling, not the critic. Don't let the critic dictate what you will and will not do. The critic, they may have something positive to offer. You take that positive, you apply it where you can, but you maintain power and pursue the calling of God in your life, which leads me to this last one. Focus on God. You know who's for you? God is for you. If you're pursuing your calling, God is for you. If you're pursuing your calling, God has gifted you. If you're pursuing your calling, then God is in a way cheering you on to do what He has equipped you to do. Focus on the right thing and on the right one, and you won't get pulled off track. Critics are hard to deal with, but anyone who has experienced criticism has also attempted to do something. Because people who don't experience criticism are people who aren't doing anything. If you want to accomplish something in your life, understand there will be critics along the way who will have stuff to say. And when they say whatever it is they feel like they need to say to you, you then have a decision. How am I going to deal with my critic? Well, you don't have to give them power, but listen to what they say. Take what applies and get rid of what doesn't. Be gracious when you can. Make the changes when necessary. Focus on your calling and keep your eyes on God. Criticism is only bad if we allow it to be bad. Don't let it become emotional, although it sometimes will be hurtful. Get back up. Keep moving. Better for what you've taken, how you've taken it, how you've applied it to your life, and the focus that you have on your Creator.